Hey, what's up guys and gals? My name is Rick9G. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be looking at the Addams Family. Now, this is not to be confused with the 1990s Addams Family movies, but the 1960s original TV show in black and white called The Addams Family. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to browse my channels. I have lots of TV shows on here like I Love Lucy, Munsters, and so much more. So go take a look. Today I'm going to be presenting 10 interesting and cool facts about the Addams Family TV show. Now, of course, inside these facts I may elaborate a little bit and give you more details about that fact and extrapolate. But other than that, I hope that you enjoy this. Now, I could make an episode on each one of these facts and expand, but I want to kind of condense them and keep them to these 10 facts. So let's get started. Our first fact centers around the actress Lisa Loring. When she started the show at the time of the pilot, she was around 5.5 years old, and she didn't even know how to read. So think about that. That had to have been complicated to have her memorize a script, but according to her, she had it read to her several times and she repeated it back until she learned her lines. Later on during the course of the show, she did go to school, which actually was on set, and this facilitated her reading of the script and learning her lines later on. Moving on to Ken Weatherwax, who played Pugsley, Wednesday's brother, he said that he was allergic to almost everything around him. It was a real pain for his mother to choose the clothing that he had to wear because he was allergic to almost everything he wore. However, his mom was the one who shot for his clothing, making sure that he was okay with the material, and she made sure that the set had tons of his outfits so that he can change in and out of them as they got dirty and so forth. Now, this third fact, guys and gals, I can make an entire 20-minute video about, but I will just touch upon certain things, and that is the Addams Family mansion in itself. Now, the mansion that is seen at the beginning of every single episode is not a real-life mansion. Well, that's half true, and that's because the bottom half was a real house in Los Angeles, California. Interestingly enough, it was on Addams Boulevard. Now, Addams spelled with one D instead of two Ds. And was built in 1887, and it stood all the way until the 1960s, of course, when we saw the show. Now, in the pilot, we saw the bottom half, and that is the bottom 2/3 half of the mansion. Now, the top part, the spires, was actually added later on through the magic of a glass matte painting. What they did was they basically drew in the top section that they wanted so that they can get the perfect match to the perfect house that the producers were trying to imagine. So when you are looking at the full mansion, you're looking at a real live house at the bottom, and the top spires were added later on. I'll show you the comparisons. Unfortunately, the house no longer stands, but the neighborhood is still around, and it is part of a college. You can even go and visit it. However, the house was completely demolished. There's a track and field area right now where the house once stood. The only thing that stands from 1903 is a 6-bulb street light, which you can go and visit. Pretty cool, but it's sad to know that the house is gone. Now, going back to the kids, both Lisa and Ken, while they were on the set, of course, they were minors. They were not adults, and that's fairly obvious, but that meant that because they were child actors, they could not be alone on set. They had to have a close family member, parent, or guardian with them, almost shadowing them at all times while they were on set. It is said that while Ken and Lisa were in front of the cameras, they had a parent or guardian right behind the camera looking at them. They had to be in the line of sight, and that was very important just for child safety reasons. According to Ken, his mom was always there, and in regards to Lisa, it was either her mom or her grandmother. Now, who didn't like Cousin It? Now, of course, Cousin It was played by Felix Silla. Now, Felix had to don that huge hairpiece, and in fact, it wasn't one hairpiece, it was two hairpieces. One that would fit on his head and would come down to about his waist. The other one would be kind of like a hula skirt that would go around his waist and down. It would be brushed and blended together so that you couldn't tell that they were two separate pieces. Now, what do you think he wore under all that hair? Well, he reveals that under it, everything was black. He had a black shirt, black shoes, black gloves, and pretty much had clothing under it, and it was fairly hot, but he enjoyed playing the part very, very much. Now, John Astin played Gomez Addams, but you may not have known that he was originally planned to play the butler. Now, the butler, of course, is Lurch, played by Ted Cassidy. However, the concept of Lurch was very different and was not even the butler character originally. But later, things were worked around. They thought that John would be a perfect Gomez Addams, and Ted Cassidy would be better off as this Lurch butler character. Now, I really wanted you to know the beginnings of the Addams family. And again, I can make a whole episode on this, but just to summarize it very quickly, the Addams family was originally cartoons. They were cartoons in a one-panel gag in The New Yorker. Now, the characters were underdeveloped and they were unnamed until the television series production. The creator was Charles Addams with 2 Ds, and he wanted people to know that Gomez and Pugsley were enthusiastic. Morticia's even in disposition. She's fairly muted but witty, sometimes deadly, and he went through a lot of these characters, but he also knows that money is no problem, and that is reflected in the show. The next fact surrounds the house in itself. If you've seen the show, you will notice that there are a few bears that often appear. Again, I can make a whole video on these bears and the details, but I will let you know that the bear in and of itself is a polar bear, and it was painted by the set designers to resemble a brown bear. Now, one of my favorite characters on the show, Lurch, of course played by a giant Ted Cassidy, played another part in the show, and some people don't know this, and that was because it wasn't billed in the end credits. Yes, Ted Cassidy was also Thing. His hand was used, and it was really comedic to all of the cast to see giant Ted Cassidy crouching behind furniture, wardrobes, armoires, and sticking his hand through the table to play Thing. Now, whenever you saw Ted Cassidy as Lurch in a scene and there was Thing, of course he couldn't play that with both hands in the scene, so they actually used assistant director Jack Vogelin. Jack Vogelin doubled for Thing when Ted Cassidy was on screen, and that is a great fact that I think many people don't know. And lastly, let's talk about the lion, Kitty, who often appeared on the show. Kitty Cat was an old circus lion who they got to be on the show. Of course, they had a trainer on set, and what they would do, they would make sure that the entire cast was at a safe distance so that everyone would be kept safe, especially the children. The children were not even allowed to be on set, completely removed from the entire situation when the lion was present. From what I know, there were no close calls or anything like that, but I think it was a good call to keep the kids and everyone else safe. Well, that's it for this video, guys and gals. Thank you so much for joining me today and for supporting the work that I do. If you want to see more videos like this on the Addams Family or other shows, don't forget to put them down in the comments below. Which of these was your favorite fact, and which one of these was completely a surprise to you? I would love to know. We'll see you next time, guys and gals. Don't forget to always stay positive and, most importantly, be hopeful.